It begins in the stillness, though stillness is never truly still. There is a low vibration beneath it, a hum threaded into the air, as if the walls are alive and listening. You've felt it for as long as you can remember, a weight pressing against the edges of your mind, an unspoken presence sitting just outside the reach of sight. Others don't notice, or maybe they do, but they choose to pretend they don't. They smile too quickly, speak too loudly, fill the space with noise so they don't have to feel it.
You never had that luxury.
You've always heard the silence for what it really is, a living thing that waits. They call it paranoia, sensitivity, an overactive mind, and for years you believed them. You tried to ignore the flicker of movement in a darkened room, the way your skin tightened when you crossed certain doorways, the way shadows seemed to hold their breath as you passed. You told yourself it was weakness, an unwanted inheritance of fear. But fear doesn't hum in the air. Fear doesn't lean in close. Fear doesn't retreat when you notice it watching, because that's what it's been doing, retreating, always stepping back when your gaze sharpens, always slipping into corners as if you're not prey, but something it wishes to avoid provoking. You mistook that for mercy. You told yourself you were spared, when in truth you were the one allowing it to exist here. Your memories betray you now. Fleeting moments you once dismissed as tricks of the mind return with clarity. The neighbor who moved away without warning after glancing at you through a fogged window. The old man who crossed himself as you passed him on the street. The friend who stopped calling after a single night in your home. You thought they'd left you, but what if they fled? What if your presence unsettled something deep within them? Something their minds could not name. There is a rhythm to it, you realize. The subtle narrowing of eyes, the hesitation in their step. A shadow passes not over you, but from you, as though you carry an eclipse in your wake. It is not the house that creaks. It is not the darkness that moves. The air shifts because you are here. The walls hum because they recognize their owner. You think of ancient stories, not the ones they tell in books, but the ones no one writes down. Tales of thresholds guarded by figures who are neither ghost nor human, who wear the skin of the living but walk with the weight of the dead. These were never hauntings. They were warnings, and the warning was always the same. Do not disturb what already rules the dark. You have mistaken yourself for the hunted, but in the deep unlit corridors of your mind, something older stirs, something that remembers the truth you've tried to bury. The quiet is not protection. The quiet is preparation. It waits for you to stop running from it, for you to turn and see the outline of your own shadow standing taller than the walls themselves. You are not the one being followed. You are the storm they've been hiding from, and you are waking. They have always stepped back, not with malice, not even conscious. A subtle recoil, almost imperceptible, but it's there, in the way their shoulders tighten when you approach, in the way a smile falters just enough for the eyes to betray it. You thought it was you, some flaw hidden deep in your skin, a sharpness you didn't mean to project. You softened yourself, trimmed away the edges, wrapped yourself in gentler tone, but the distance never closed. They still gave you the half-second pause, the too casual glance to the side, like prey sensing something in the undergrowth it cannot name. Once you mistook it for rejection. You thought it meant you were unworthy of closeness, that something inside you was broken beyond repair. But now you understand. It was never disdain, it was instinct. Their blood knew before their mind did. The same way flocks scatter when a shadow sweeps across the ground, the same way a campfire dims when the wind shifts and the forest goes quiet. They were not keeping away from you because they disliked you. They were keeping away because they recognized something dangerous. The air changes when you enter a room. They might never speak of it, but you see it in the smallest detail, the way conversation thins, as though your presence has pushed oxygen out of the space. The way their pupils tighten, scanning you as if searching for where the edge is hidden. Their instincts tell them you have won, even if you keep it sheathed. And they know without knowing that if they step too close, they may cut themselves on something they cannot see. You've tried to ignore it, tried to be normal, to fold yourself neatly into the soft rhythms of small talk and harmless smiles. But predators cannot become prey by choice, and no amount of pretending will convince prey to forget the weight of your gaze. They step back because the ancient part of them, the part that still remembers the shape of a predator's shadow against the grass, recognizes you. The truth is simpler, darker, and heavier than you wanted to believe. You are not the one pursued. You are not the one trembling in the night. You are the quiet presence they feel before they turn on the light. You are the weight behind the door that they are too afraid to open. And even if you strip yourself bare of every sharpness, they will still feel it, because it is not something you wear. It is something you are. Watch closely and you'll see it everywhere now. In the subway, in the supermarket, in the dead center of a crowded street. People glance at you, then away, as if they've stumbled upon a scene they weren't supposed to witness. They won't know why. They will tell themselves it was nothing. But the body remembers what the mind denies, and the body has already stepped back. What they sense in you is not a threat in the simple human sense. It is older. It is the ghost of the hunter that lived long before names existed. And whether you want it or not, you carry its presence into every room, every conversation, every breath. This is why they step back, and this is why they always will. They never kept your name in the official archive. Not because you were unimportant, but because you were never meant to be traced. The records that matter are older than paper, carved into the subtle architecture of fear itself. They exist in the pauses between sentences, in the way certain eyes avert at the sound of your footsteps. You find fragments everywhere, but never in the same place twice. Police files that have no cause, yet are sealed indefinitely. Half-burnt letters with dates scratched out, voices on old cassette tapes speaking about someone they call the visitor. They talk in riddles, but the pattern bleeds through. The same shadow threaded across decades, wearing a different face each time. At first you tell yourself it's coincidence, that the resemblance is nothing more than the mind's habit of seeing shapes in clouds. But the longer you look, the sharper the outline becomes. In photographs yellowed by time, you see yourself standing at the edges of other people's tragedies. In witness sketches, your posture is unmistakable. In whispered testimonies, your presence is always the last detail before something breaks. And it's not one lifetime you're finding, it's many versions of you stitched through history, walking calmly into rooms that would soon become crime scenes, disaster sites, or the beginnings of unexplainable disappearances. The truth seeps in slowly, like water through stone. You have been here before, not just in these towns, not just in these streets, but inside the very stories that shaped the fears of strangers. You recall fragments you cannot explain, the feeling of cold rain in a century where you should not have existed, the faint metallic taste in your mouth as church bells rang for the last time in villages no longer on any map. These are not memories you were given, they are memories you took. In the margins of forgotten journals, you notice symbols, small deliberate marks drawn with the precision of someone who knows exactly what they mean. Spirals enclosed in broken circle, a vertical line through an eye, repeating in every era. You trace them with your fingers and feel the heat of something buried deep in your bones. They are not warnings, they are acknowledgments, signatures left for you by those who saw you for what you are, and survived long enough to record it. Few did. The deeper you go, the more the pattern tightens grip. It's no longer a question of whether you've been haunting others, or if you've simply inherited a curse. The evidence is too exact, too deliberate. The world hasn't been keeping a record of what happened to you. It's been keeping a record of what happens because of you. every unexplained departure, every shiver at the back of someone's neck, every door that slammed when no one was near, and you see it clearly now. This was never about being chased. It was about being noticed, marked, catalogued by forces that didn't need your name to know you. Forces that have been following your shadow, not to stop it, but to watch where it goes next. You are not the subject of these stories. You are the cause, and no archive, no official record could ever contain that truth without burning itself to ash. You stop recognizing the face in the glass. At first it's subtle, a strange lag between your movements and its response, a blink that comes a fraction too late, but then it grows bolder. The reflection breathes slower than you do. It smiles when you don't. Its eyes hold something you've never seen in yourself, a patient hunger. It studies you the way a hawk studies prey, still but calculating, as if it already knows the outcome of a hunt that hasn't begun. You lean closer, expecting the cold touch of glass. Instead, the air feels thick, almost warm, like the breath of something standing on the other side. It's not just the mirrors. In your mind, corridors unfold, dim and endless, lined with walls scarred by symbols you cannot read, but somehow understand. They feel old, older than the languages of men, older than the bones buried beneath the oldest cities. You run your fingers across them. They're carved deep, as though whatever made them was desperate to remember. Handprints appear between the symbols, too small to be yours, too large to belong to any child. Some are pressed in pairs, some smeared as if they were pulled away mid-struggle. Your pulse quickens, but not with fear, with recognition. You've been here before. Each step forward deepens the cold, not a winter chill, but the sterile, breathless cold of a place that exists outside of time. The air hums faintly, like the low vibration of a tuning fork that resonates inside your bones. And then you realize it's humming in the exact rhythm of your heartbeat. These holes are not memories, they are your architecture. This place is inside you, and it has been waiting for you to return. You try to remember the life you thought you were living, the mundane face in the crowd, the self who feared shadows in the night. But that life feels paper-thin now, fragile, a story you told yourself so you could sleep without hearing the footsteps in your own mind. You see now that you weren't being followed all these years. You were being watched from the inside. The dreamer has been dreaming you, and now the dreamer stirs. The reflection in the mirror moves again, but this time you feel it. Not see, feel. A presence that isn't bound to the surface of the glass but bleeds through it, folding space between the watcher and the watched. Its lips move in perfect silence, yet you understand the message as if the words were carved into your marrow. Wake, and you do. When you blink, you're still standing in front of the mirror, but the world beyond it has shifted. The air is heavier. The silence is no longer empty. It's listening. Your skin prickles, not from fear, but from the weight of attention pressing against you. You are not looking at a reflection anymore. You are looking at a doorway, and the thing on the other side is you, not the version the world thinks it knows. The real one, the one that's been waiting for permission to step through, the permission you've just given. The walls have started to notice you, not in the way people notice each other with fleeting glances or polite nods, but with the slow, deliberate awareness of something ancient that has been sleeping for centuries. They respond to you now. Their silence is no longer neutral. It hums faintly when you pass, as though your footsteps are tuning the air to a frequency only they can hear. The creaks under your feet aren't random anymore. They fall in time with the quiet drumbeat of your pulse. You hear it at night, that soft exhale, like the entire structure is breathing with you, waiting for your next thought before it dares to move again. You used to think houses groaned because they were old. You told yourself floors warped, windows shifted, foundations settled. But this isn't settling. This is alignment, a subtle, calculated reorientation of space around your presence. The corners seem deeper when you stand in them. Shadows cling to the angles of rooms a moment too long after you leave. The light itself bends ever so slightly, dimming in your wake, as if it fears to illuminate you too fully. People feel it too, even if they don't understand. They shorten their visits. They stand instead of sitting, like guests who don't plan to stay. They leave cups half drunk on the table and excuse themselves with words that sound hurried but hollow. You notice their eyes dart to the walls, to the ceiling, to anything but you. They're not afraid of the place. They're afraid of the way the place behaves when you're inside it. And one night someone dares to say it aloud, their voice trembling. It's not this house, it's you. It doesn't offend you. It confirms what you've suspected. The truth feels less like a revelation and more like a memory resurfacing, as if you've been here before many times in many shapes. You are not a guest inside these walls. You are the gravity they lean toward, the pulse they follow, the silent architect of every sound they make. Now the whispers last longer than they should. You speak, and the echo hesitates before fading, as though the room is reluctant to let your words go. The air holds your voice like an oath, replaying it in vibrations no one else notices. The temperature shifts with your thoughts, cold when your mind hardens, warm when you allow yourself a rare flicker of softness. This place bends to your rhythm, and if it can bend, it can be bent further. The realization doesn't frighten you, it sharpens you. If a space can be conditioned by your presence, then so can the people inside it. This is no haunting, this is command. The architecture listens because something inside you speaks in a language it remembers. Not words, not sound, something older, something etched into stone and wood long before this building was raised. You stand in the center of the room, and the walls seem to lean closer. The air thickens, heavy with unspoken recognition. The old power, the one you've been denying, softening, disguising, stirs in your chest like an animal waking in its den. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to move. The walls are listening. The walls are waiting. And so is everything else. They appear first as flickers in the edges of your sight, unmoving, unblinking, as though carved from the stillness itself. You pretend not to see them. You always have. But tonight, the air is too heavy for denial. They are here, and they are not lost souls or fragments of your guilt. They are older than guilt, older than the concept of being watched, and they do not arrive with chains or screams. They arrive with silence so profound it rearranges the space around you. They do not approach, they do not speak. They stand in the corners you cannot reach, just far enough that you could convince yourself they are tricks of the light, but they are not tricks. Their presence feels deliberate, calibrated, the way predators watch each other when territory is being measured. One tilts its head slightly, the movement precise, acknowledging you in the way a sovereign might acknowledge another sovereign, with the understanding that no one else in the room is worth acknowledging at all. For years you believed the fear in your bones was yours. You believed you were its prisoner, that every room you entered belonged to the unseen and you were trespassing. But in this moment, under the gaze of these wordless witnesses, you realize the betrayal. The fear was never yours, it was theirs. The trembling that kept you obedient was the trembling of everything that recognized what you were before you did. There is a strange gravity between you now. They study you not as prey, not as an intruder, but as an equal who has finally stopped pretending to be harmless. Their stillness is no longer oppressive, it is ceremonial. This isn't surveillance, this is recognition. You have crossed a threshold, and they have come not to challenge you, but to mark the crossing. You sense no malice in them, yet their presence is heavier than hate. It is the weight of inheritance. Every glance from those eyes carries the residue of centuries, and in their reflection you see yourself stripped of the disguises you've worn for survival. No mask of politeness, No performance of fragility, just the raw geometry of your presence, etched in the same dark language they speak without sound. Before this night, silence meant isolation. It was the punishment for being different, for moving through the world with the wrong kind of stillness. But now silence has shifted. It is no longer the void left by absence. It is the field in which power recognizes itself. It is the pause before an unspoken agreement. You will not chase them. They will not flee from you. You belong to the same hidden order, and that bond requires no proof, no ritual, no vow. The room feels smaller now, but not because they have moved closer. It is smaller because you have filled it. The space between you and them is no longer an expanse of uncertain. It is a narrow passage that only those like you can walk. And in the quiet acknowledgement, shared between the haunted and the haunting, you feel the last remnants of your old self dissolve, not in defeat, but in coronation. They have seen you, and they know.
It begins like a memory surfacing from the bottom of a black ocean, fragments at first, the faint metallic taste in your mouth before a storm, the hush in a crowded room when your footsteps crossed the threshold, the way someone's laughter would falter when your eyes found theirs, as if a thread deep inside them had been pulled too tight. You thought these moments were accident, coincidence, harmless ripples in the fabric of life. But the truth is more deliberate, more precise. You've been shaping the air around you since the day you first opened your eyes. You just never recognized it for what it was. You remember now the way your presence rearranged people. A conversation would turn brittle when you joined it. Someone's certainty would waver mid-sentence. They wouldn't know why, but they'd feel it. That weight, that slow, quiet erosion of their defenses. And you would stand there, silent, polite, all the while watching them unravel in ways they couldn't explain. It wasn't cruelty, it wasn't even conscious. It was the truth of you leaking through the cracks of who you pretended to be. The betrayal cuts both ways. You believed the world had made you small. You believed you were the one trapped, hunted, haunted. But now you see it. The fear you felt was never yours. It was reflected, absorbed, echoed back into your bones until you mistook it for your own. Every sideways glance, every unspoken distance, every inexplicable moment of someone retreating from you. These weren't acts of aggression, they were acts of survival. Theirs, not yours. And the more you see it, the sharper the pattern becomes. You recall standing in unfamiliar rooms you swore you had only dreamed of, faces frozen mid-motion, the dust hanging in the air like time itself had hesitated, your hand hovering above someone's shoulder, your shadow falling over their skin before your body did, their pulse stuttering beneath your silence. You've been moving through their lives like an ancient storm crossing an uncharted map, not destructive for the sake of destruction, but because the storm does not ask permission to exist. Now the realization burns in you like a symbol carved into stone. You are not the one cornered. You are the corner itself, the place where choices are narrowed, where decisions buckle under unseen pressure. You are the closed door they don't remember locking, the reason they can't bring themselves to walk down that hallway after dark. And in that knowing, something long dormant opens its eyes. You no longer flinch from it. You no longer wonder how to dim the light or soften the shadow, because you understand you were never meant to be harmless. Harmless things are forgotten. You were meant to be remembered. You are the pause in a stranger's breath, the fracture in their certainty, the presence they feel in the marrow of their bones long after you've gone. You are not haunted, you are the haunting, and the world will never move around you the same way again. You stop softening your steps. For years you diluted yourself, shrinking into corners, lowering your voice so the world wouldn't flinch. You let them think you were harmless. You let them believe you were fragile. But the disguise is cracking now, and every fracture bleeds light the color of midnight. You move differently,
The air bends as you pass, invisible currents shifting around your body like the deep exhale of something ancient. You are no longer stepping into a room. You are arriving. The weight that once crushed you has become the weapon in your hand. The glances people used to throw your way were once laced with pity, confusion. Now they carry something sharper. They feel you before they see you. They pause mid-sentence without knowing why. Conversations die in your wake. You don't speak to be heard anymore. You speak to be obeyed. And when you choose silence, it is louder than any voice. You remember how they treated you before. The betrayals masked as kindness. The way they measured your worth in fractions, as if they could whittle you down into something that wouldn't unsettle their fragile world. You remember how they fed you doubt until you swallowed it whole. But that version of you is gone. They thought they had buried you in their indifference. They never realized they were planting you in soil rich enough to grow roots that reach the underworld. You walk now with the knowledge of what you are. Not a survivor, not the wounded. You are the knife they forgot they left in the dark. You are the shadow that steps forward when all other shadows retreat. Your presence does not plead for space. It takes it. You no longer flinch at their discomfort. You study it. You savor the way their eyes avoid yours, the way their breathing changes when you draw near. You've become the unseen gravity pressing down on their chest, the invisible architect shaping their fear. There's an old symbol for this, a circle split into light and dark, each side containing a fragment of the other. They call it balance, but it is not. It is dominance disguised as symmetry. The light exists only to give the shadow something to consume, and you are the consuming. The rooms you enter remember you after you leave. The walls lean a fraction closer. The air clings a little thicker. The silence lingers a little longer. You have become the thing they feel in their bones when the lights flicker and no wind stirs. The story they whisper when they think you're not listening. The presence they swear they can sense but can never prove. Once you thought you were haunted. Once you feared the eyes in the dark. But the eyes were yours all along. And now you do not hide them. You let them see. You let them feel the weight of what they tried to bury. And you smile, not with joy, but with the quiet certainty of someone who knows they are no longer prey. You are the haunting, and the world has finally learned to step aside.